Gods and goddesses gather around. Welcome to Mythology and Makeup. I'm Vanessa, and I'm thrilled to share my passion of Greek mythology with you while I get ready for the day. Let's uncover the fascinating stories of mythology together, from Athena's wisdom to the captivating stories of the muses and everything in between. So grab your brushes and a mirror, and let's unleash the beauty and magic within. Happy Saturday, everyone. I hope everybody is enjoying their weekend. Welcome back for another video. Now we're going to get into one of my favorite mortals in Greek mythology, Odysseus. I loved reading the Odyssey in high school, and that's what started my love for mythology. In middle school, you learn about the different gods of the different mythologies, but the Odyssey is what hooked me. Did you know that there is a new Odyssey movie coming out? I watched the trailer for it like a week ago, and I am super excited to see this movie when it comes out. I remember watching the Odyssey in high school, and I mean, that one came out in like the 70s, 80s, and it was still a good movie. I actually watched it again like last week just to I'm doing research on Odysseus, let me just go ahead and watch the movie again because it's such a great movie. So if anybody has seen that trailer for that new movie, let me know down in the comments what your opinion is on that trailer. If you haven't watched the trailer, you should definitely watch it because the cast is loaded. That movie is stacked with like bomb ass actors and actresses. So definitely give it a check. Give it a look. So let's learn a little bit about Odysseus. He was the ruler of the city of Ithaca. He was a hero in Homer's Odyssey. And the Odyssey tells the story of Odysseus after the Trojan War and his terrific journey home to Ithaca. Odysseus is best known for his cunning and his willingness to be a trickster. Throughout the Iliad, Odysseus is known for being one of the only level-headed Greeks. He went to great lengths to avoid going to this war. He pretended to be mad so that he wouldn't have to go to war, but he ended up having to go anyways. He would not want to be in Troy, but if he had to, he would at least try to be reasonable. His wife was Penelope, a princess of Sparta, and the cousin of Helen and Clytemnestra. Just before the war started, Odysseus and Penelope had a son named Telemachus. But before his son was able to walk, Odysseus had to set out for war, and he did not come back for 20 long years. A couple of years after the Trojan War ended, Odysseus found himself stranded on an island with the nymph Calypso. And I'm going to go into depth on each of the major characters he gets stuck with. So just an overview real fast. So he found himself trapped on an island with the nymph Calypso. He started out with a bunch of ships and many men who sailed back with him from the war. But when he reached Calypso, there was none left. He was by himself. Calypso wanted Odysseus for himself. He had been on the island with her for 7 long years. But at one point, he just wanted to go home to his son and wife. But he sure did have some fun with Calypso over those years. Just getting it on. When he finally was free from Calypso, he ended up on the island of the Phoenicians, where he told them his story. First, he told him that his men landed on the island of the Lotus Eaters. Odysseus quickly learned that they were in trouble when they landed on this island because the Lotus Eaters offered his men lotus to eat, which immediately rid them of their memories and their desire to return home. Next, they were on the island of the Cyclops, where a number of his men were eaten. They fled from this island as quickly as they could, and next they ended on the island of Aeolus, who controlled the wind and he gifted Odysseus a bag containing the west wind and was instructed to not open the bag until they could see Ithaca in sight. The crew sailed day and night, and finally, when Ithaca was in the sight, Odysseus allowed himself to take a nap. I feel like that light was too bright. But the men were curious about the gift that Odysseus had. So they opened the bag, and in doing so, they let out all the west wind, which blew the ship in the complete opposite direction. And once again, they were lost in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. Odysseus was not too thrilled about this. They literally saw their home, and these men were like, let's see what's in this bag. After the wind incident, Odysseus and his men landed on an island. And quickly they learned that there were a bunch of cannibals on this island. But when they got back to their ships, they were trapped at the harbor and were not able to escape. Many of Odysseus' men died on that island. Finally, the remaining ships landed on another island named Aya, ruled by a witch named Circe. Circe told Odysseus that in order to carry on his journey, he needed to visit the underworld, speaking with the dead and learning what he needed to do to get home. And once that was done, Odysseus and his remaining men had strict instructions on how to avoid the next hurdles. First, there were the sirens. The men must avoid hearing the song of the monsters in order to pass. And next after that, they would encounter the deadly sea monsters. Scylla and Charybdis. Immediately, they would come to the island of They would come to an island where they were told explicitly not to eat the cows of Helios. But men don't listen. And this is how Odysseus ended up all alone with Calypso. Meanwhile, in Ithaca, Penelope had been fighting off suitors for 20 years. Just getting these men away from her. Like, leave me alone. My husband is still alive. And not to mention that literally everybody else that fought in the Trojan War had already made it home by now. Odysseus was the only one that hadn't made it home yet. But Penelope, she knew her husband was still alive. She knew it. She knew it deep down. She knew it. She and her son were biding their time and hoping that Odysseus would come back to them. The suitors would not leave them alone. They were eating them out of house and home, in addition to being just plain obnoxious. Finally, with the help of the Phoenicians who gave Odysseus a ride home, and once Odysseus, they got him to the island of Ithaca, he met his son. And he met his son, and then he disguised himself as a beggar. Because if he would have just walked in to his home, the suitors would have just killed him. They would have just straight up killed him. So he was like, so as disguised as a beggar, Odysseus and his son went into the palace, and the suitors were like, oh, look, Telemachus, I'm pretty sure I just said his name wrong, has returned, because he went to go see Menelaus and be like, where's my dad, bruh? Like, do you know where my dad is? Like, these suitors, like, need to leave. And Menelaus told him, like, hey, like, nobody's seen your dad. Like, everybody else has made it home. Like, nobody's seen your dad. Like, he's long gone, long dead. Like, he's dead, dude. And so when Odysseus, like, was like, my son, I have not seen you in 20 years. He's like, you're not my dad. My dad is dead. Like, I was just told that everybody else had made it home already, and that me and my mom just need to, like, move on with our lives, and that you were dead, and we just need to mourn you. And then, so Odysseus, convinced him, like, yes, I am your son. Like, you are my son. Like, I am your father. Like, I'm not dead, I promise. So when they walked into the palace, the suitors was like, oh, you're back. Welcome back. Blah, 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 blah. And so he immediately went to his mother. And Odysseus stayed in the palace, disguised as a beggar, just watching the suitors do the suitor things that they were doing. And once everybody went to sleep, when all the suitors, they all went to sleep, Odysseus and his son slaughtered and killed all of them. He revealed himself to Penelope, and he was home safe after 20 years. I'm glad she is loyal. She is a loyal lady. I mean, Odysseus wasn't loyal those whole 20 years. And we'll find out what he did on his little journey back home. So let's learn about the Cyclops. The Cyclops' name was Polyphemus. He was a one-eyed giant. Originally, there were 3 Cyclopses. They were the children of Gaia. And they were the children of Gaia and Ouranos. And therefore, some of the oldest creatures in Greek mythology. But he was a younger Cyclops, the child of the god Poseidon and a sea nymph. Since he was the son of Poseidon, he was beloved by him, and so he had an island all to himself. And across a narrow stretch of sea, another island where more Cyclopses lived. But Polyphemus lived all on his own, with some goats, and, made his own cheese. He was just living it up on his own island, just living it there, just minding his own business, just mind his own business. And if somebody came to his island, he killed them and ate them, He was, one day just, doing his thing, vibing, taking care of his goats, doing his daily chores and stuff. And this dude named Odysseus and his man arrived, wandering in search of food and shelter. He was out in his pastures tending his animals when the men came upon a cave where he lived and stored all of his food and some of his animals. The men gorged themselves on the food, but not knowing who or what lived in the cave. Finally, he returned and shut the cave with an enormous boulder that only a giant could move. Watching what Polyphemus would do next, when he saw the men, he asked them what they were doing there. Before changing speeds, he picked up one of the member of Odysseus's men and smashed them together before ripping them apart. When night came, they all tried to sleep. Polyphemus had a full stomach because he ate some of Odysseus' men and quite a lot of cheese. He lay back and went right to sleep. Odysseus, meanwhile, realized that he could never move the boulder by himself. He needed Polyphemus' help to do so. So the next day, Odysseus and what remained of his men planned their escape while Polyphemus was in the field doing his daily tasks. And when Polyphemus returned, Odysseus offered him a little bit of wine, and then some more wine, and then some more wine. And he got pretty drunk. And him and Odysseus chatted it up. Odysseus tried to be as friendly as possible with the Cyclops and explained to him that his name was Nobody. It didn't take long before Polyphemus was drunk enough that he fell asleep. And so Odysseus took this opportunity to stab him in his one eye. Polyphemus cried out in pain, and he said, "Nobody has blinded me. Nobody has hurt me." And when the Cyclopses on the adjacent island heard this, they were all confused and offered no help whatsoever. You know, see, Odysseus is a pretty smart dude, you know. Eventually, Polyphemus removed the boulder and from the doorway to the cave and attempted to stand guard, even in his blind state, so that Odysseus and his men could not escape from him. But the men were crafty and managed to attach themselves on the underside of Polyphemus's sheep. So once the sheep made their way out, so did the men. And, you know, he was feeling around on the ground. He's like, "Oh, I don't feel any of the dudes. I don't feel anybody." Like, you know, he thought all of his sheep were out. So Polyphemus did not know that he had let the men pass because they were hiding under the sheep, you know. Once the men freed themselves and fled back to their ships, I'm going to attempt a fun little look today, so we'll see how it goes. Okay, so they fled back to their ships while Polyphemus was crying out after them. Odysseus called back, revealing to Polyphemus that his name was in fact Odysseus of Ithaca. And with this information, Polyphemus went straight to his dad and told him everything that Odysseus had done to him. And Poseidon vowed to ruin Odysseus. You know, Odysseus could have just kept his mouth shut. You're just making it worse for yourself, buddy boy. Now, let's learn a little bit about Circe. She was the witch goddess of magic. She was a witch, and she was the daughter of the Titan Helios and a nymph. She was the aunt of Medea, but she lived on the island by herself, just with some nymphs though, and some lions and some wolves as her pets. So when Odysseus and his men landed on her island, she sought to defend herself against the strange man who just thought that it was okay to just come up on her island. The group of men searched the island for food and shelter, just like anyone would, and they came across Circe's palace. She made a show of welcoming them inside. She offered them food and drink, and once they were full, she used her magic and transformed them all into pigs. Then she put them all in a pen and was like, "You're mine. You are mine." She went on about her life as though, nothing had happened. But she didn't realize that one man stayed outside of her palace and witnessed everything. This man ran back to Odysseus and the other men and told them what happened. He took them straight to the palace to free them from Circe. However, Odysseus was stopped by the god Hermes. Oh, I put a little too much water on that orange. Ooh. Hermes told him how to avoid Circe's magic and gave him an herb that would prevent him from it being used on him. When the men arrived to the palace, Circe welcomed them as she did with the other group of men. When she moved to transform them, just as she did with the other ones, but much to her surprise and the annoyance of her annoyance that her magic didn't work on Odysseus, instead, he came at her with his sword. She fell to her knees, knowing immediately who he was. She had been told by the same god who helped Odysseus that a brave man by that name would come to her island on his way from Troy. She told him to drop his sword and go to bed with her. She convinced him that she was going to free his men. You just got to sleep with me, bruh. Just sleep with me and I will let your men go. After they slept together, Odysseus had a nice relaxing bath. And Circe did indeed transform his men back and let them live freely on her island. Odysseus and his men spent quite some time with her on her island, long enough for him to develop a relationship with her. And then she helped them continue on their journey to Ithaca. After she had him for some time and played with him a little bit, just... So next we're going to learn about Charybdis and Scylla. They were two sea monsters that are featured in the Odyssey. They worked together to kill anyone who sailed between them. Scylla was a monstrous creature with dangling legs and 6 snake-like necks with snarling heads with razor-sharp teeth, and from the mouth echoed a booming bark. She lived on top of the cliffside. On the other side of her was Charybdis, a sediment in a violent whirlpool that into her depths with incredible force. So, if a ship went one way, they could not avoid. They couldn't go between them. They couldn't go around them. They had, they could not avoid them whatsoever. Not one bit. They could not avoid them. They terrorized sailors. And it was believed that it was between Sicily and the Italian mainland. This was one of the last obstacles that Odysseus had to face. The men received instruction from Circe on how to best make it home. Sail closer to Scylla and that some of the men will die. Otherwise, she would take the whole ship into her depths. Odysseus followed these instructions, and as expected, Scylla was able to use her many heads to pull off some of the men off the deck before devouring them. Still, as they passed, they watched the sea suck the water around her into a massive whirlpool so deep that they could see the ocean floor. But this was the first time Odysseus had passed through the strait. After Odysseus's men mistakenly ate the cows of Helios, Odysseus alone had to sail back through the stripes that time, and he wasn't able to avoid Charybdis and Scylla like he did before. Instead, he left off his ship and grabbed hold of a fig tree, just as Charybdis sucked the ship into the depths. Odysseus hung by the tree, awaiting for whatever was left from the ship. Finally, his mast stood out from the whirlpool of the sea, and Odysseus grabbed onto it, hanging on to the mast, and Odysseus floated until he reached the island of the nymph Calypso. Now let's learn a little bit about Calypso. I don't know if I'm pretty sure I have not mentioned it, which I don't know why I did not mention, but my dogs are named after Greek mythology. So I have one of my dogs, her name is Calypso, and then I got another dog. I have 4 dogs. So one of them's named is Orion, and then I got Persephone and Hades. I don't know why I maybe I mentioned it, maybe I didn't. I don't remember, but I love the name Calypso. And yeah. Let's learn about Calypso. She was a nymph who lived on an island all by herself. Like, just lived on an island, you know? Just chilling. She was the daughter of the Titan Atlas. Calypso tried to keep Odysseus on her island. She wanted to make him her immortal husband, while he gets to enjoy her sensual pleasures forever. She kept him prisoner on her island for 7 long years. She did this by enchanting him with her singing while she moved to and from, weaving her loom on a golden shuttle. After some time, Odysseus came to wish for circumstances to change. He no longer could bear being away from his wife anymore. During the daytime, he would go sit on the shore and cry. Just cry like a little bitch. And then at night, you know, he was forced to sleep with Calypso. Like, yeah. Against his will. So, Odysseus was a patron of Athena. So Athena went to Zeus and was like, hey, can you help my dude out, bruh? Like, he's trapped with Calypso and, like, he just wants to go home to his wife. And I think it's been long enough that he's been without his beloved wife. And so Zeus sent Hermes to tell Calypso that it was time to let Odysseus go. And Calypso told Hermes, like, you just hate when goddesses fall in love with a mortal man. Like, the gods just hate that. But whatever, I'll let him go. So she lets Odysseus go. She gives him some materials and tools so he can build his own sail, his little raft to make it back home. And she points him to his way, on his way where the wind would push him, and, you know, he left. And after that, you know, he makes a journey back home all by himself, which is very sad. You know, he had like all these men with him. To start off with, he had all these men. And now he's all alone. I'm going to finish my eye off camera because it's getting a little difficult. Alright, I'm back. How does it look? Do we like it? Do we like it? Do we like it? They might not be even because this one's slightly higher than the other one, but it's okay because from a distance, it looks fine. Looks fine. And that brings us to the end of our video today. I'm going to do like since it's like a rainbow look, I'm going to do like insane blush. Like way more than I normally do. I'm going to go over my entire nose. Maybe I should get some pink eyeshadow. Let's see. Let me blend this out real fast. Oh yeah, we need some more. We need some more eyeshadow. Some more pink. Just put some here and on the nose. And then blend it out and see what happens. You know, it's makeup. It washes off. That is insane amount of blush. Look at that. Oh my. Oh my. Okay, now I have another idea. Okay, we're just gonna, I don't know how to do this, obviously. Obviously, I don't know how to do this. Is it the paint wet enough? Oh, we're getting somewhere. I think I got some in my eyeball. Just put white splatter all over my face. Why not? Yeah. Should we add some other colors too? Maybe some light blue. Let's do some light blue. Okay. Just got like a little creative for a second. Okay. Okay. Is it working? Is it working? Do we see it? Do we see it? I think it's getting in my eyes. I just got where my finger hit my face. You know? It's all over my desk. I think I just made a mistake. Can we even see it on camera? I don't even think we can see it on camera. I don't even think we can see it on camera. Here, let's do some, let's just leave it alone. Let's just leave it alone. But this is the look of the day. Look of the day. I might just tweak it a little bit once I finish, you know, just look of the day. How are we feeling? How are we feeling about this look? I don't like how there's paint splatter all over my table and not really much on my face. But can we take this white and maybe like... Because, ooh, hold on. Let's see. Where is my... Oh yeah, that toned it down a little bit. Maybe it did. Maybe it didn't. I don't know. Are we toning down? Is it getting a little less blush blindness like? Is it? Is it? Is it giving less blush blindness? Anyways, so guys, that brings me to the end of my video today. Just put setting powder on it, you know, and setting spray, you know. It's, I don't know how I feel about these big... Oh, okay, hold on. I got this set. Oh, shit. No bueno, no bueno, no bueno. Okay, and clean up that mess I just made. Why don't we spray some setting spray, like on the blush area, and then get a brush that I never use, and maybe, okay. Well, you could see the splatters like really close, like really up close, but if you weren't like up close, you can't see it. Maybe. I just got these brushes too. I don't wanna ruin them. I should just stop messing with it. Anyways, guys, I'm just making a mess now. I'm just making my face look like a mess. But I'm just gonna leave it how it is. It's fine. It's fine. But thank you guys so much for watching my video today. As always, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And I will see you guys next week so my next video is going to be kind of like, I know I touched on like how like man was created with the gods and stuff, but I want to touch more on that. So I'm going to do another, like my video next week is just going to be like the creation of the human race in Greek mythology. So I will be back next week with that video. But in that time, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, a great week, and I will be back here next Saturday with another video. Bye, guys.